Hello, hello. My name is Person Pal, and I'm doing another one of these high risk videos just to explain kind of how it works. Um, I'm going to go through, show you the map today, show you what the different zones are. The first one is there are three different tiers. High risk tier one. The Hellfire Peninsula is not on the tier list, so no high risk there. But Terracar Forest, Nagrand, and Zangara Marsh are all tier one, and you will not lose items off of your character in tier one. You'll only lose items out of your bag and gold. Tier two, you start losing items, and that's Blade's Edge Mountain and Shadow Moon Valley. And tier three is solely in the Nether Storm. So there are different nodes that are used to signify the different materials. There's meat and leather. That's where you're going to do leatherworking and meat gathering. Enchanting dust, enchanting. Metals is for any jewel crafting or forging, blood forge gear. And herb nodes. There's also the cloth nodes down here, and cloth nodes are they're very not farmed. Note that heroic Bloodforged nodes only show up in high risk tier 2 and 3. They will not show up in tier 1. So, only Shadow Moon Valley, Blade's Edge, and the Nether Storm will drop heroic Bloodforged gear. But every single zone has them. There's also the mother loads that are high risk and non high risk. You'll see no risk and high risk over them. There's herbalism and mining nodes, and they're usable with two craftsmen. In tier one, again, you're not going to lose any gear off of your character. You're only going to be gaining high risk items. You'll lose items out of your bag if you're stolen from. Tier two, you lose items off of your person, and you can fel commute your gear. Fel communication costs quite a bit. You'll see it on your character screen. I am playing this video back, so I'm not actually going to show it, unfortunately, but if you hit C while you're on high risk and you open up your character menu, you'll be able to see it. The last thing to note is you need to have a gear score of item 111 for high risk materials to be gathered at these spots. And that's whether you're playing Area 52 or Elune, you need to have gear score 111 in order for the nodes to be active. However, you're going to be able to gather materials from nearly every creature in the world, even if they're not in the noded areas. Right here, I'm just lining up a jump. There is no flying on high risk, so you're only going to be able to fly pretty much in this fashion. Demonic leap or some other form of jump and slow fall or levitate. It's a very effective way to travel on high risk, especially when you're trying to get from like one area and just farm a specific node. So right here, I'm going into a metal area where I've done another video. Please go check it out. I'll link it in the description about heroic Bloodforge gear and how to kind of gear yourself out. Um, but this is going to drop void and twisted load items. So there's the pure, and then there's the normal, tainted, and twisted void load. Tainted, twisted load. There's a blue, a green, and a purple. I'll split them up to kind of show what they look like right here. So there are the two blues. Here's a purple form of the void. As we go through here, you'll note from any node or any farm area, you're only going to get the twisted and void forms. So you have to actually go gathering for the other two forms of metal. So if you want to get nether loads, you need to mine anything that requires mining. That includes creatures, that includes mining nodes. There are some spots that have much lower drop rates than others, depending on the creature that you're mining. The Elemental Throne is really, really good for mining nether loads. For whatever reason, they drop like 3 at a time. They're very, very nice, although it is kind of a dangerous area, and when you pop up there from the portal, you're dropped on a very, very difficult rare enemy that just does a lot of damage, so you could die pretty quick going that way. Um, but as you see, there are other things that are popping up. These guys are dropping enchanting materials. That's because they're demons. Each type of creature has its unique drop to it. Humanoids is the easiest example. They're going to drop nether threads and interlaced nether thread. Uh, those are very common and drop off of every humanoid enemy in high risk. Doesn't matter if it's on node or not. However, if you want like a twisted or a void thread, you're going to have to go specifically to the node area and then farm creatures in that zone in order to get the other two tiers. That's the same for herbalism. You're going to get twisted and void at the herbalism nodes. However, anytime you herbalize, I guess, herb gather, um, you're going to get the other forms. See, there's nether seeds. And then over here in a second, I'm going to run over and grab this mining node to show a nether load fragment. Like I said, this is a playback, so I'm just trying to remember everything. Um, but nether can only be gathered from gathering. Void and twisted are going to drop from the tier 2 and tier 3 zones. So a tier 2 zone or a tier 1, so if you go to tier 1 or tier 2 and you farm herbs, you're going to have a much higher chance of getting twisted items with a very low drop chance of void. And it kind of shifts the other direction as you get closer to tier 3. So in tier 1, it's going to primarily be twisted items with a low chance of void items. When you go to tier 3, it's primarily going to be void items with a lower chance of twisted items. Um, and here I was trying to mine some of these creatures to show, like, hey, they can drop these loads as well, but for whatever reason, I just had super bad luck with these guys. Usually they're pretty good for dropping motes of earth and stuff like that, but they didn't want to do it for me today. Um, and again, in tier 1, you're not going to lose too much if you die. You might lose a couple of bag items, which isn't so bad on a high risk. When you're farming these nodes, you're going to be gathering enough money. The elemental throne is really where you want to go if you want to do like moat farming alongside load farming if you're a miner. I'm showing these green dots on the map. They are the demonic gateways. They appear on high risk and they're used to travel. I don't know if they appear in regular. Actually, I've never even checked. But the use for them in high risk is you don't have the ability to fly. So there's going to be some things that you can't access normally. You have to take these demonic portals in order to get to another area. Some of them will drop you just in that area, and some of them will send you down in some kind of meteoric crash. It's kind of weird. Uh, but just like all the other high risk zones, the creatures here are unique. There's some high risk dailies that will specify a zone like Netherstorm or Terracar, and you can farm certain enemies that only appear on high risk in order to get up to 21 caches per day. It's very, very lucrative if you got a couple people. You can't use portals on high risk. You can teleport though. And that was just showing you guys that you'll get a message that says this can't be used on high risk. Um, and then I didn't turn high risk off when I got back to town right away. I'll eventually turn it off. There is a 15-minute timer associated with high risk and no risk. So when you turn it off, you're not going to be able to turn it back on for about 15 minutes. And you can see in the bottom right near the second row, the high risk symbol is blotted out and it just started its cooldown. Now I'm going in the tab and showing the different forms of metal. Again, there's the pure metals, the twisted and the normal tainted, or pure and tainted. The blue loads will create the blue form of the bar, the purple will create the purple, and the green fragments will create one blue node for 5 each. Something to note that the crafting materials, so these loads, only stack up to 10, and you can only have 10 in your inventory at any given time. However, you can stack up the materials that they create up to 200 times. If you look up in the top left, there's nether thread, and there's the purple form of the nether thread as well. They have 83 stacks. But there is a nether charged twist or nether twisted and void for every category of item, whether it's cloth, herbalism, enchanting dusts, leathers, metals, or meats. When you collect these materials, you can use them for high risk crafting. If you're looking at the auctioneer value of some of these items, they are pretty expensive, and we farmed only a few of them today. I just wanted to go over kind of like how high risk works to show you guys where to go, what to look for. Always know that people can be out there. Uh, just stay clear of active nodes, if I had to give any advice. Here's where you can find high risk and the For the Horde mode. There's also For the Alliance. Basically, you gain Loyal Zeal when killing creatures. It protects your armor. When you engage in PvP combat, you get a defensive bonus and you drop less loot. There are two forms of high risk, though. There's the honor modes, which are the For the Horde, For the Alliance, and then there's Mercenary for Hire. If you're a Horde race and you want to play with an alliance player, you're going to have to both go mercenary mode. You drop more items in mercenary mode, but it enables cross faction. Later on, I'll go into mercenary mode because it is very unique compared to just regular For the Horde mode, because you can end up getting hated by your people, by your own town. Um, so it's kind of unique. There's also ways that gear are protected. I'm gonna have to make an entire video on fell communication because it's an in-depth topic. Um, Basically, if somebody's not on your gear level, they're not going to be able to kill you and take your gear. Or if they're way high above you, they won't be able to snipe you for a weak guy. Personal sanguine vengeance. This is what you need to process these materials. There's one in Stormwind, and then there's one in Orgrimmar. I know those for sure. In order to process any high risk recipe, you need to, one, have the materials, and two, Sanguine Workbench. You'll see on all of them it says it requires a Sanguine Workbench. This is why you're going to want to gather professions. There are many, many professions to get. I'm like 3 of the shy on the Craftsman's Codexes where I'm collecting all the professions so that I could process all these materials by myself. As we can see here, they're all creating these marks of ascension, the silver mark of war and the copper mark of war. They give you ascension points. It's not a whole lot. I'm at 6-7 there, and I went up to 6-7-9, which, for creating 3 items isn't the biggest deal. I guess it was 4. But when you look at the value of these items, plus the crafting recipes that they create, it's totally worth it. That being said, have a great day.